Academic achievement is going way down.
The system here in the United States was not designed, I mean, from the very beginning, to not only educate African Americans.
It's racially biased and inferior information that they're feeding the children that doesn't give them a international or a global view of survival in this world.
Public school system in the United States really can't be blamed. We have to take responsibility ourselves as individuals.
We have to develop institutions that help us to get well, help us to get better.
Our children are from an African background, and it's very important that they learn about themselves.
Are public schools creating a suitable environment for educating young black students? This is one of many questions African American educators and scholars have asked over and over again. Parents and teachers have become fed up with the situation of education in America and have decided to do something about it. While independent black education is nothing new, some schools have decided to relay the foundation of the African American independent neighborhood school. Within the modern independent neighborhood school, educators are using Africa as the center of the educational experience. Some members of the media tend to label the curriculum as Afrocentric. While many schools do not like to surround themselves in a particular label, they do all hold one thing in common. These schools center the black child regardless of their nationality. Defining an Afrocentric school is difficult since most of the schools use the traditional curriculum as well.
African American independent schools are old now. The concept started with in a formal sense, with the Africa Free Schools here in New York and partly in New England, partly with the black church schools when we couldn't go in any other schools, partly with the church missionary schools and the weekend schools.
This program will attempt to present highlights of the modern independent neighborhood school. The schools we visited are located in Brooklyn, New York, and Brewton, Alabama. The Cush Campus School was founded as the Al-Kareem School in 1972 by Sister Aura Razak. Sister Razak was concerned about the conditions of the public schools in New York City and decided to teach her children at home. She later set up a curriculum and opened her own school.
We consider ourselves a child's extended family. Children spend 8 to 12 hours here, particularly if they go to our after school. So we spend time with them. A child responds to us the same way they would to their parents, their natural parents. We believe that children are naturally gifted and that every child has a gift. And it's up to us as the child's teachers to bring out whatever those gifts are. So we build our curriculum around that we believe in the children. Although we are often described in the press as an African-centered school, and I think we are African-centered in the sense that our children are from an African background, and it's very important that they learn about themselves. That's part of our success in working with them, teaching them about who they are, their ancestry, and where they come from. We describe ourselves as an independent, non-public school. We try and stay away from terms like private school so that we're not considered one of those elitist institutions that have been around since the turn of the century. We have a very traditional curriculum, which is centered around reading, math, science, but we also include things like physical education, music, art, drama, foreign languages, martial arts. We have a dance program. We have an academic Olympics where they compete with one another again, with science bees, math bees, African history bees. We have a science fair every year. So in reciting it, it sounds very traditional, but we try and make it interesting for the children.
Sparks of African Genius is a preschool also located in Brooklyn, New York. It was founded by Akilah Wright and Fayette Pusey in 1983. It stresses and acknowledges the child's African self.
We believe that all children have the genius potential, and it's our job to find where that talent is. We're a non-denominational cultural school. We have children here who are Muslim, Catholic, name it, we have it. What we say and what we said 10 years ago when we started was that no matter where you come from, once you're black, you're an African. And we say that, so we don't tell the children, oh, you're a Pan-Africanist, or you're this or you're that. We just simply tell them that they're African, living in America, and their root is Africa. We believe in engaging our children. They have to be actively involved in the learning process. Now, that active involvement can come through our toddler level, where we do a lot of singing, a lot of games, a lot of application of things. So we won't just show them the number one, they'll go and they'll get one thing. So it could be on the next level, which we call Giza, whereas our children are not just now seeing the number one, not just being asked to go get one thing, but they're also, maybe when they go home, they're asked to put the number one on the things in the house where they only have one thing. Here, our children, at some point during their course of time here, they learn about slavery, but we tell them about slavery in a positive way. We tell them that there's nothing that they can't achieve, because when we were slaves, there were Africans who could read, who could write, who were scientists. So when we don't have the burden of slavery, that should almost propel us to do more and to expect more from ourselves.
Oh, we learned a song today, like the counting song, which you commonly teach children in preschool. One little, two little, three little Indians is commonly it's called. But since these are African children, we teach them one little, two little, three little Africans. We live in a world that's predominated by Eurocentric culture, so they will have an infinite amount of opportunities to learn about European music and music styles. Plus, they live in a world that's where the media is inundated by both African and European musical styles. This may be the only opportunity they will have in life to learn about their culture and learn who they are, and also the roots of not only African but of European music.
The Johnson Preparatory School is located in Brooklyn, New York. It was founded by Sister Ayanna Johnson in 1972 in the basement of her home.
We want to educate students that will have an impact on our society. We want to educate children that when they leave here, they go to high schools and colleges, when they finish, they will come back to try to do something for the upliftment of their own people. Our curriculum is, I guess, very eclectic. We have the core subjects of math, science, reading, and social studies. We also teach computers. We teach French. We have a very good performing arts department, drama, music, chorus, musical instruments. We have a comparative religion class. We have a gym program that generally comprises swimming, gymnastics, and martial arts. I think the children feel very comfortable when they come here because it's not very different from their own homes. We don't have a vast impersonal building. Our building is small, it's an intimate setting. We try to keep it not only clean, but we try to keep it artistic.
The Johnson Preparatory School is different in educating young black students because firstly, it believes that all black children can learn, and it believes that children need not only learn about academics in order to be productive in this society, but that they also must have a firm foundation in terms of their African history and culture. And what we're finding is that there are many untruths that have been taught, and students are beginning to know that as well. The education system does not put children at the center of the education system. And once they begin to put children at the center, then children will begin to start learning.
Another alternative is the black boarding school. Although the black boarding school is almost unheard of, it does exist. One in particular is Southern Normal High School located in Brewton, Alabama. The majority of the students that make up the enrollment are from major metropolitan cities in the United States, as well as students from as far as Ethiopia.
Southern Normal School was founded in 1911 by James Dooley, who was an educator from Tuskegee, Alabama. He came to Brewton to start a school because black boys and girls at that time in the Deep South, particularly in Alabama, could not receive an education at public expense, and also private schools were very rare. So he came down in 1911 to start a school for black boys and girls. In 1919, he ran out of money, and the Reformed Church in America, which is based in New York in the Midwest, took the school on as a mission of the church. The current goal of a Southern Normal School is to be a first-rate college preparatory school. But at the same time, we want to ensure that our students leave the school with a well-rounded education that shows appreciation for their black heritage and the contributions that black Americans and Africans have made to our country. A student cannot do his best if there's chaos in the school. And that is extremely important. And we can maintain discipline at Southern Normal School in ways that a public school cannot.
Dr. John Henry Clark, an African-American historian who has written several books on the African's experience in America, feels that the educational system in the United States was designed to fail the black child.
It's failing a large number of African-American children because that is its intent. We still live in a European-conceived intellectual universe. In my opinion, education has but one honorable purpose, one alone. Everything else is a waste of time, and that is to train the student to be a proper handler of power. African-centered education is merely education to give back what slavery and colonialism took away. And what slavery and colonialism took away is our place in the history of the world.
Education is the socialization of children into society, which means that children are educated in such a way that they pass on the traditions and the culture of the people who educate them. And the best people to educate your children are those who understand the culture and are willing to give them the same information.
I think that the current system is failing because it's lodged in the past. It's based in the past. You know, the conditions, the system was created for conditions that existed in the early 19th century, in the early 20th century. So the system has to be updated to deal with the current circumstances and situations that people find themselves in and that people are living in.
The public school system in America has been criticized for its teaching standards. We spoke to George Leonard.
I was a biology teacher for the Board of Ed for 10 years. I taught at Boys and Girls High School. I felt that I wasn't fulfilled. I felt that something was still missing. I mean, you have a school where you have close to 4,000, 5,000 students, and the majority of students who attend school, they don't do very well. And even though I might be with an honor class, the students that are non-honors, that are taking these applied courses, they're not really gearing these students for college. So I wanted to do something that could take the student that's classified as at risk and remove that symbol. And as an educator, I felt like I was perpetuating a fraud by staying in the public education system and dealing with it on this level, where you have crowded classrooms and poor education skills, you know, with some of the staff. I felt that education is a field that is one of commitment. So, you know, I felt that I could do more if I created a program outside of the Board of Ed, still worked with the Board of Education because most of the students go to public schools. So it would have been foolish for me to design a program where I was not going to work with the administrators, the Board of Ed, the superintendents, and the district offices, the school boards. You know, everybody has to work together.
Miss Leonora Peterson is a concerned parent who removed her children from the public city school system because she felt that they were not receiving an adequate education.
My children weren't functioning correctly in that system. So I had to make a decision, and I did, and I pulled them out. They're doing a very inadequate job in teaching not only my children, but as far as I'm concerned, in teaching at least 80% of the population.
The public school did not instill any kind of self-esteem into my children. As a matter of fact, all that I had tried to instill into them was pretty much cut down through the system.
It's a systematic thing for failure, and it's proven itself out by the fact that 60% or more of our male population are failing. They're failing, they're coming out of the school system, they're dropping out, and then they're looking for other means of financially supporting themselves, and as we all know, it's coming to a point of drugs and gun.
It needs to change. I don't think it will anytime soon. I think students are going to do much worse before it gets better. And the ones that are going to pay the price are going to be the black student and the Latino student.
The hiring practices of teachers, that has to be seriously looked at, because that is a very serious racial issue. And I'm not concerned that there are black teachers in the school system. I'm concerned about the degree of amount that represents the population, within the school text itself. I look at, you have 80% of people of color, and I think the school population need to reflect that. As far as teaching staff, if it's not, there's something very wrong here.
Many of our people, maybe because of our economic situation, we are forced to use the public schools.
I was trying to find an independent black school for my children. I found out I couldn't afford it, as I'm a mother of 6 children, and I just can't afford them. I'm also a single black mother. So what I did do is I did my own research, and I do have a pretty good background in education. So what I've done is I got together with some other women, and we started our own school. It's not officially at this point. So what I've done is taken my children out and put them in what is called home instruction. And we're teaching our children, and we've made the classroom the world.
African Americans need to take responsibility for the fact that the state cannot raise our children. Although the state has played a major role in destroying our children and our families, the state cannot heal them. So those of us who are healthy are going to have to do more than we're already doing.
Involve ourselves with our children's education very early, okay? Two, be in whatever school that you have your children in, be involved in that school, whether it's a nursery school, a daycare center, whatever. Be involved in the school. Know what it's about. Know that it's safe for your child. Know that it's teaching a curriculum that you want your child to learn. The days of just putting a child in the school and going off and leaving it up to the teachers, those days are gone, not especially if you want your child to have a comprehensive education. 3, be involved in the mechanisms that regulate education, like the Parents Teachers Association.
What we want is children who are empowered to use their mental capacities, their thinking skills, to think broadly and creatively so that they can come up with new, innovative solutions to the problems that some of us are just too narrow-minded to solve.
The Brown versus Board of Education case argued against separate but equal schooling. Many African Americans maintain that integration has not fully served its original purpose, and many public school systems across the country are still segregated.
Our schools are black only because they, for the most part, are run by blacks, and the majority of students who attend them are black. But that's not too different from Catholic schools or Jewish schools or other denominational type schools. Those types of schools have a history of training what they consider to be their own. And when you look into it, you find that it was necessary for them to do that because, again, the system was not in a position, for whatever reason, of training them in the way that they felt they needed to be trained. It did not take into consideration their culture as they were being trained and as they were being taught. So consequently, these types of schools came along, the Catholic schools and the Jewish schools and the black schools. Are they racist? No, not at all. They're necessary. Do they add to the black students' ability to learn? Yeah, I think so, and in most cases, but it's not for everybody. and that's why I think integration is great.
We never were integrated. We fully have never become integrated. We're not integrated now. What has happened is that they desegregated laws on the books, but they didn't put the practice. We had to continue fighting. So we really never won that so-called integration level.
And if they would look at integration, they will see that it has not served us well, that it is really a misnomer. The children really haven't been integrated at all. And so therefore they get less attention than they did when they were in schools that were separated from the white population.
Many believe otherwise. One New York City school teacher commenting on this issue asked not to be identified.
African Americans, blacks, Caribbeans, we all fought for desegregation, and that was brought to us in 1954 with the Brown versus Board of Education. Introducing an African-centered curriculum in the 90s is just reintroducing segregation again in another form. Any education on African American history, the culture, morals, and ethics should be brought up at home. Parents should take the responsibility on educating their own child. That responsibility should not rest on the teachers of the New York City public school system.
Tucson Institute Fund is an organization dedicated to provide early intervention from the public school phenomena. Dr. Gail Foster has assisted parents who have asked for education options for their young children.
The Tucson Institute Fund was founded in 1988, and we were founded in response to initially one young boy who was in crisis in the public schools, and he just wasn't making it. He was labeled special ed and getting left back and changing schools. So I raised money, and people responded, and we sent him to an independent school in his own neighborhood, and a historically black independent school. He did very well. And so we created an education expo and a consulting service so that we sponsor that every year, the Tucson Institute Fund Education Expo. And parents come out and they can get information on what their options are, historically black independent schools, the better public schools. We disseminate that information.
As a result of our mistreatment in this nation over the past 300 to 400 years, that we have suffered irreparable damage, and that the only thing that can cure that can turn that around, is that we have to develop institutions that help us to get well, help us to get better, so that we can function in the larger society in a whole pattern.
A parent does not want and should not want a school that says we are here to teach children to memorize facts and to be able to read, write, and do arithmetic, and then we'll worry about the rest because that's not empowering students to be able to educate themselves.
Our system is not child-based. When this system is not based on, not child-centered. It's not for children. It tends to be teacher-centered. So it's based upon what can be done for the teacher job-wise rather than what can be done for the children. And so we don't meet this very special and unique needs that children who come from an African-American community need.
Our young African males get to be about in the third grade or so, they lose their zest for learning, and often they're placed in the special education track because a teacher may not be able to handle them. Now that we do not support.
I really do believe that the reason for having that in the first place was to destroy the black male.
We believe that those children that have particular kinds of problems, they all can be addressed in a regular classroom setting. So we accept children who have been labeled as special ed. So we have children who have been labeled as special ed who are in our regular classrooms, and they're learning along with the other children. And we pay attention to the kinds of things that they need. If there were behavioral problems in the public schools, they don't have those problems anymore because they know that we care about them. They're addressed as individuals, and they get special kinds of attention, but not the kind that they get in what we call the special ed in the public schools.
Miseducation will continue. We have to break that cycle the impact will kill us. And I'm telling people that if you don't break it now and you don't correct it now and you don't make demands now to straighten this out, tomorrow's children may be the same people that wind up at your doorsteps with a gun.
These children are not stupid. They see what's going on, and we can't lie to them. This is not about a curriculum of inclusion. It's about a curriculum of correction. We must start teaching the truth.
The Board of Education has an inability to really identify the problems that these students face because they're just so unable to really understand the mindset of the young person today. They don't know how to deliver academics to these students anymore.
If you're talking about literature, if you're talking about social studies, whatever you're talking about, you've got to show the relationship of the development of that information to the history of that child. That is always done in everybody's educational system. There's no reason for the African American child to feel that the educational experience is not hers or not his. That educational experience must be seen as a centering experience where the child feels that, yes, when you're talking about this subject, you're talking about me.
Supporters of an Afrocentric curriculum say that African Americans have been excluded from written history for far too long, and Afrocentrism gives blacks back their cultural heritage and gives black children an awareness of their cultural identity. The independent black schools express differences in religious and cultural philosophies, but they all succeed in educating African American children despite these differences. They provide a solid base for young children whose parents may later decide their child will be able to function in a public school setting. Currently, there are over 350 African American independent schools across the country. Many have proven to demonstrate that the black child can reap the benefits of a quality education if given the opportunity. According to a study based on 82 independent black schools, 64% of the students scored above the norm on national standardized tests in reading and 62% in math. The graduation rate is also higher in independent schools than in public schools. In New York City public schools, the average graduation rate is 43.2%. In the schools we studied in this program, the graduation rate is above 80%. Parents will continue to look to any alternative school so long as it does its job in educating and stimulating growth in the child. As long as we recognize there is a problem, parents and educators will continue looking for solutions and alternatives that work for them.